Denise here. I got a little bit of an update to give you. I received an interesting letter because I've been trying to get some criminal charges against the Stalker ring that I've been following in these videos. And I've got here a nice letter from the Attorney General of Massachusetts. And here's what they say. Dear Ms. Matteau, we are in receipt of your recent complaint. Unfortunately, this is a very prevalent crime which often involves targets outside of our jurisdiction, non-traceable and or false email accounts, and identifications used by suspects. I like that because they're admitting that indeed this is a crime that I presented to them. They are also pointing out that it's one of those things that can be difficult and expensive and probably often fruitless to investigate. So, they go on. While we do not intend to open a criminal investigation due to jurisdictional issues, given the frequency with which this type of crime is occurring, we will notify the domain holder to the fact that this issue exists. He goes on to say, I hope you will understand that we are not able to prosecute the matter given the facts revealed through our investigation. What they're saying is they did a small investigation, enough to prove that rickross.com is doing what appears to be criminal activity. And they're not going to prosecute it because this is Massachusetts and he's located in New Jersey. And they'd have to spend probably $500,000 to track down the various people, especially those people in Australia, and one that claims to be in Canada but is probably also in Australia. Rick Ross is very clever. He's got people in the United Kingdom. He's got one in Aberdeen, Scotland, posting some of the most criminal level of postings in his website. He stays afloat by virtue of being able to outlawyer his average victim. Most of his victims are people like you and I, just average people, and don't have the time and money to get involved in a legal wrestling match with somebody who makes his living in legal wrestling matches. Rick Ross is a very experienced criminal in the stalking, intervention, interference, violation of your civil liberties world. But that being said, I do believe this was really a nice Christmas present. They mailed it just before Christmas and I received it yesterday. And I do believe that we are making progress. And I want to encourage everyone else out there, whether it's Rick Ross or some other rinky-dink vigilante, don't give up. Talking to the police about internet harassment that you feel is spilling over into your real life can be very frustrating because the police really don't have the time to sit down and listen to every one of these complaints that they get. They just get too many. And that's what the criminals count on. That's why they stalk more than one person. It's like an army invading a country through sheer force of numbers. And this is why we have to be persistent. We have to be very patient with the police and just work our way through channel after channel until finally something clicks. In this particular case, what clicked was the obituary that one of Rick Ross's associates sent me as a warning early this summer an obituary of a young murder victim, a young woman, college student who was murdered. And that person who sent me that obituary did that early this summer as a warning to me of what could happen if I did not cooperate with Rick Ross. That was sent through a Facebook link. This is what's so frustrating for the police. They have to investigate Facebook to find out who sent it. They have to investigate that person to find out if he sent it or if somebody sent it to him and said, please do this, without telling him what the link was. And he didn't check it. They don't know. They have to investigate that. Well, I was able to put together who it was. And I was able to file a complaint and say, please investigate this. Because after that warning, very shortly after that warning, my daughter's fiancé turned up dead. I don't know the details. His father told me he did not believe it was suicide. He was very upset. A month after that, my daughter was found dead. And you might say, well, it's an emotional chain of events. You got a weird link from somebody and then this tragedy happened. And indeed, I would like to see it that way. But there were just too many common threads up there in Massachusetts. And the more I dug, the more they stuck. And when I started talking to police, they started recognizing things. And at first I simply spoke to a few troopers who said, look, call this person, call that person. I recognize this name. But we can't investigate unless we get the okay from our superiors. So I went up the ladder. I got finally through to the Attorney General's office. And the Attorney General is taking it seriously. In fact, the last trooper that I spoke to on this said he was quite sure that Martha Coakley would take it seriously because he said she really is very, very firm about cyberbullying. And in this particular case, Rick Ross is actually trying to drive a retired couple to suicide. They are deliberately peppering this poor old man and woman with false pedophile attacks. They're trying to turn it into another Fells Acres. These people don't even have small children. They've never done anything to deserve anything like that. I've read all of their religious writings. I don't share their religion at all. Frankly, I don't even like them. They are opportunistic. The man has taken advantage of people to pass out his books and literature, but he has committed no crimes. And every single one of us who's ever worked anywhere. Good Lord, I worked at Pizza Hut. I could say that I got taken advantage of there, or any number of places I've worked. Every one of us can say that. They're not committing crimes. You take a job, you agree to do something for low pay, you get fed up, you move on. But this Rick Ross is actually, he'll go in there and he'll say, focus like a laser on Dave McKay. Focus like a laser. Poor Dave McKay is half senile. He's an old man, he's retired, and we are watching these brown shirts attack him. It's so disgusting, and it's criminal. And I'm not doing this out of any love for Dave McKay or that silly little group that he had running around telling everyone the world's going to end. You better give up your house and follow us. I mean, you know, I gave up my place and followed the Appalachian Trail one summer. You know, I mean, people give up their houses for a lot of things, and God bless them if they discover in a year of passing out Jesus pamphlets, they discover something spiritual about the world. I think everybody should do that. But I really, my purpose here is freedom. My purpose here is that you don't attack people the way Rick Ross attacks people. And I want to encourage everybody out there, don't give up. Even put up with corresponding with other people, because if someone's bullying you, chances are they're bullying somebody else. You find out who that other person is who's getting bullied. And you contact them, and you work together as much as you can. And if that other person turns out to be an asshole, you just part ways. You don't fight with them. I feel really bad for Dave McKay because I can tell he does not know what's going on. These people have pulled him into conversations with people who are with the criminals. And I said to him, you don't talk to the criminals. You address what they're saying in a public correction, especially the pedophile crap. Yes, put up a public correction. He reprinted an article that was being misquoted and misrepresented when Mrs. McKay wrote a very sensitive article about the problem of dealing with pedophiles in society. Because once they've served their term in prison, where do they go? And she wrote a very sensitive article about that problem. And Rick Ross has taken that article and tried to turn it into support for pedophilia when it was really completely the opposite. Dave McKay, unfortunately, has been so damaged by the years. It's maybe 4 years worth of harassment that I could see just in that one thread, maybe even longer than that, but it goes back to at least the mid-2000, 2005 or 6, that Brian Birmingham started seriously harassing. He even called Dave McKay's mother, who's in a nursing home. Dave McKay himself is retired. His mother's in a nursing home. And these bastards with Rick Ross called that old woman up in the nursing home and got her in a conversation and then started using her words against the rest of her family. That is how low and disgusting these people are. And the McKays have been putting up with that kind of harassment for years with no help from anybody. Because Dave McKay, being a Christian, we don't go to police. We don't go to courts. Well, no, we do, actually. The whole church thing about not taking your brother to court, if someone's attacking you, he's not your brother. Even St. Paul in the New Testament resorted to court with the Romans. He stood on his rights as a Roman citizen. And so anyway, I just want to say that we are making progress, and I want to hear from anyone that wants to help. This is I've put in a monetary thing because I've decided if I'm going to be serious and keep fighting, and I am going to devote 2011 to this fight, then, any money that goes into that fund is going to be used for this fight. For the police have said they can't investigate everything. Well, if I could hire a private investigator, I could get a lot more done. And this letter from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts could be followed up with letters from other places. We've got to get one like this from New Jersey. That's our next effort. New Jersey's next. We've got to find out who this CC Susan Smith Summers in Canada is. We've got to get something out of Canada. We've got to get her dealt with because she's one of the primary helpers of the Stalker ring. I don't even want to try to deal with the couple of idiots that are over there in Australia. I figure that's the McKay's problem. And one of these days, he's going to have to recover himself enough to deal with that himself. But over here on this side of the Pacific, yes, we're dealing with it. And we're dealing with it in the United Kingdom too. The fellow up there in Scotland that thinks he's going to lead his own little Stalker ring, he likes to post as Apollo. We're in touch with the Aberdeen people now. And this isn't going to go on. Not in the English-speaking world. Not as long as I can speak English.